The FAA and other public agencies say they have no idea what plummeted from the sky and plowed into the ground near the Colorado River.
It happened in May, and a number of eyewitnesses saw it. They also saw the flotilla of helicopters that arrived shortly afterward to retrieve whatever it was.
The I-Team's George Knapp has kind of been looking into this mystery on the river. Now here with the latest, George.
Well, I think we can rightfully call this a UFO crash since the object, whatever it was, is as yet unidentified. When we first reported on it back in July, we told you about a key eyewitness who had seen the crash up close and then dropped out of sight. It took a while, but we found him. He still doesn't want us to mention his real name, but he had plenty to say about the crash and what followed. According to eyewitnesses, the mystery object blazed out of the sky in the early morning hours of May 14th. In Bullhead City, former LAX police chief Frank Costigan noticed the turquoise light overhead.
It kind of got bright, so naturally I looked up, and I picked it up right about here, heading in that direction, and went up like this speed, down behind the hill right there. I expected to hear the boom coming from somewhere.
Elsewhere in Bullhead City, Brad Allen's son saw it in his telescope.
And it was weird to him because it was going fast and it seemed to slow down and then picked up speed again. And it was really bright.
Looked like it was darn near coming right at me.
This fisherman was on a slow drift down the Colorado River south of the town of Needles when the large glowing cylinder plunged out of the sky.
It didn't look like a meteor. I've seen meteors before. It looked like a plane crashing.
The witness, who prefers to be known as Bob on the river, says the object slammed into the riverbank 50 or more yards west of his houseboat.
It hit and it thumped. It didn't crash. It didn't explode. It went poof, a thump.
In this desolate stretch of the river, much of the surrounding land is sandy, like a beach, so a thump on impact rings true. Because the river is lower than the bank, Houseboat Bob could not see the crash itself, but he had no trouble eyeballing the military-type helicopters that swooped in just moments later.
I believe there were 4 of them. One kept its light on me, one kept its light on the front of my boat, two of the other ones were circling.
The smaller choppers were joined by a huge sky crane similar to this one, which somehow attached itself to the crashed object, then hauled it away in formation toward the north. Minutes later, in Bullhead City, Brad Allen saw the aerial procession.
I looked through the binoculars, and below one of them was a green object. It wasn't glowing, it was just faint green.
There's so many possibilities of what it was, but
the story of the UFO crash and the mystery helicopters first emerged on K-Talk's radio in Needles after Bob on the river called in, a decision he came to regret. When the story went national, Bob was nowhere to be found. In the months since, the I-Team filed records requests with more than a dozen federal, state, and local agencies. Not one knows anything about the incident, although 2 federal intelligence agencies stated they have no records they can release. UFO groups have assumed the object must be a crashed flying saucer, similar to the famed Roswell incident, and that it was retrieved under something like Project Moondust, a real program from the Cold War designed to locate things that fall from the sky.
We've had things that fall down for a long, long time, and you have people who go out and pick up things that fall down. That doesn't make them extraterrestrial.
Retired intelligence Colonel John Alexander thinks it's possible that what crashed near the river was something being developed in secrecy by our military. His best guess, some sort of UAV, a pilotless warplane, the kind said to be in development at Area 51.
Well, it's only unidentified to you. They know what it is, and there's also the possibility that you lost control and it flew off the range. So it's not that far from Edwards or any of the test ranges.
Lockheed Martin, for example, has conceptualized a number of super-secret, high-tech, unmanned flying machines capable of morphing into other shapes during flight. And what about military choppers? The I-Team found several stationed during the summer in Henderson, attached to a special ops group known as the Night Stalkers.
I'd sure like to know. I thought it was a plane crash.
Was Houseboat Bob intimidated into laying low, as ex-cop Frank Costigan told us? When we found him a few weeks ago, the fisherman was cagey.
It's a very difficult question to answer, Mr. Knapp, especially at this time.
Privacy. You could say that. I mean,
Obscurity.
You don't want attention. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely not.
But he added this intriguing postscript.
I don't believe we were meant to see this.
Houseboat Bob isn't the only person to feel intimidated. In the days after that crash, Needles residents say they had regular encounters with government agents in dark, unmarked vehicles, sort of like men in black, asking tough questions. That part of the story tomorrow at 11. We'll also take a boat ride with Bob to the spot where this thing came down. And on our website right now is a GPS reading from that spot in case you want to go out on your own UFO hunt.
There are people getting out the door right now.
Absolutely.
Houseboat Bob, where'd he go when people couldn't find him?
Well, he didn't go far. He basically turned off his cell phone and he floated around a bit. And there are all sorts of these nooks and crannies down there on the river, and he knows them like the back of his hand. He wasn't taken into custody or anything, but he won't say whether he was questioned or talked to. We're going to sort of get into that a little bit more tomorrow.
Can't wait.
Wow.
Thank you, George.
All right, thanks, George.